Joe, everybody. This is the Upper Tier Podcast. If you could smash that subscribe and bell notification button, and of course drop a like on the video. We are back with our Summerslam 2023 reaction. Joining me, a man we haven't seen on the screens in a while, but he's back. He's been going through one of the most stressful things you can do in life, a house move. It's a nightmare. But joining me back, Ian the Dynamo Kelly. How are you, my friend? Welcome back.
Delighted to be back. I was in between two songs to kind of introduce myself back. I was gonna do a Slim Shady, Guess Who's Back, and then I was thinking boys are back in town, guess who just got back today. But you know what, I don't want to I don't sing for free these days, you know, so I just said I'd give myself an introduction and say I'm very happy to be back. And yeah, in the new Labode here now in the beautiful sunny southeast, back in Wicklow, Niall, not too far from yourself. I'm sure you'll be paying a visit very, very soon. So I'm in the new man cave here. It's a work in progress. So over the weeks now, you're going to start seeing this change a little bit, and we can announce as well something, the return of a certain show, maybe at the end of the show, to keep people listening.
Absolutely, keep them interested. Well, it's great for me as well. I'll tell you why, because it means now I don't have to answer all the questions in the chat about where it is. So now that you're back, it's pretty cool.
Who's been asking most?
They've all been. Well, Ian Hodgins is the most. He normally asks the most stuff like that. I think he just misses your end to the show when we are over and out. He's been filling in for you while you were away, so he's been giving us the over and out in the chat and all. So you're never too far away from the show, even when you're not here. You know.
Of course, I'm always watching. Yeah.
What's the crack, Niall? How are you, Daz? I'm a little bit tired. I didn't get much sleep because I went straight into SummerSlam, straight into Diaz versus Jake Paul, and then straight into doing the dogs, because the dogs were awake at that stage. The light was up and there was no point in going to bed, so I've gone right through. So maybe I'm not looking too bad. Sean's in. Howdy, fellas. Very tired, and the show was underwhelming. Interesting to hear what you think. Absolutely. We'll get into that and let you know our thoughts. Big up, Ian. Daz. Yeah, absolutely. Cheers, Kenny's in. Big up, Kenny. Great to see you again, Ian, lad. There you go. They've all been wondering where you are, and they answered.
Cheers, Kenny. Now. Kenny and myself have been. Hope Kenny's healing up nicely there. He was in the hospital, so he's. It's good to see him back up on his feet, hopefully. And cheers, Sean. Good to see you too, brother.
And I suppose we have to say to Kenny as well, congrats today on winning the Community Shield. Nice little win over City on penalties. So big up.
Only trophy they win all year, so it's nice to get it done early, you know.
Oh, the shots off Martin early. It's good. We know you're back now. And Daz is in. Did anyone watch Collision last night? No, I will catch up on Collision, but I didn't watch
it. We'll catch up with it.
I'll be focusing this month a bit more on AEW now that like SummerSlam is out of the way and Jake Paul and all that kind of stuff. I'll free up a bit of time, Daz, I promise. I'll commit myself to a little bit of it. Sean's in again. The After Midnight 4 Loco and Buffalo Hunky Dory didn't play in my favour yet. Absolutely. Ian's in. What's the cricket, Niall? What's the cricket?
Can he not see me? No, has he got the huff with me because I've been away for so long?
You know he always delays coming in on you. He'll always hit me first. FTR versus Young Bucks AEW Tag Team Championship All In. Interesting. We'll be looking at that and seeing. I actually like them. Before we get into the show, I like Bully Ray's idea. I don't know if you've seen it the other day on Busted Open Radio. He was saying what they should do for All In is announce no matches. Have them all surprises. Don't announce a single match. That'd be kind of cool, wouldn't it?
I think it'd be different, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Assuming you get the matches you want, though. The problem is if you get a shit show of a load of crap matches that you're not interested in, then it becomes a problem. Ace is also in. Samoa Joe challenge CM Punk for All In. I'm all in on that. Samoa Joe versus CM Punk. Everyone knows my thoughts. That quality. Hope we get grasp. What's the crack, Niall? All good. You've given me my one, Eno. You're leaving Eno out. Oh, you're fixing the crack from the cricket, is it? Hope we get Grado. We are 100% getting Grado. I don't know if you've seen him on TalkSport. Jared laid him out with the guitar. It was absolutely quality.
My boy, Jared.
And I just wonder, I don't know whether the lads in the studio were in on this or not, because they seemed a bit shocked by it when you listen to the reaction. There you go. There's Ian in. How are you, Ian? There you go.
Very good, Eno.
Never nice knew. Yeah, I suppose when we get into this, WWE has been riding this crest of a wave. These prime live events, if you like, if you want to call them, and stuff like that. They've been absolutely flying. They've been knocking it out of the park. Mania, Backlash, Money in the Bank, Night of Champions, all these kind of things. They've been absolutely flying. But the key thing in all of those, I thought, was my overall idea was the crowd. The crowd at all those events, Puerto Rico, London, Saudi Arabia, the crowd were unbelievable. They were so invested in it and in every match, and they were full on and all that kind of thing. And I think with this one, I was probably expecting a little bit more because it was Detroit, and it was Ford Field, and it was a big field, big stadium show. And the crowd were terrible. I just thought they were so flat. I was looking at the women's match, and we'll talk about the matches individually as we go along. But I was looking at the women's match, and at one point, camera side, there was 4 guys in the front row, and all 4 of them separated were all yawning at one point on camera. Absolutely. I don't mean yawning as in put on yawning. They were actually yawning. And it was just so weird to see that. It was just
we'll get to the reasons. We'll get to the reasons why, in my humble opinion, that was later.
Sean,
although just that you're saying that now, sorry, because I suppose we should talk about the crowd now that you brought it up.
Yeah.
I think I agree with you. I do think some of the booking may have had a helping hand in that. I think at times they were loud, but I actually found even when there was pops, Niall, I had to listen back today after you texted into the group this morning regarding that. And you know, when you're watching it live and you're that tired, and you have a couple of beers. I had my first few beers in 4 weeks last night, lads. So boom, I was I had a couple. So as you can imagine, when you take a month break off the old beer, you might buy the 6-pack and you find that 2 in, it's actually hitting you harder.
Yeah, 6-pack can hit you like a 12-pack. It's good to take the break, though. It's good to take
100%.
Yeah.
I recommend it, lads. Try a few little non-alcoholics every weekend if you fancy just chilling. They're actually all right. They're not too bad. But I watched it again this morning. I just fast forwarded it, and because I knew we were going to be doing the show today after you had said that in the group chat this morning, and I thought you were right. But I also wonder, with some of the acoustics on those open door stadiums, it sounded to me, and this isn't to make excuses for WWE, the audio sounded choppy at points as well. So I don't know whether that may have had a little bit of a hand in it in some parts. Yeah. But I do hear you. For a lot of the part, the crowd was flat. And I do, maybe we'll get into it when we talk about the matches. I do think in terms of the placement of the matches and the arrangement of the card was a little bit...
Which is always key.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think if you'd have switched maybe 2 or 3 matches around there, it may have been an all-round better show, personally, for me.
Yeah, do you know what makes me judge the audio? You know, when you're looking at the telly and you're looking at that camera side, everyone was sitting down. No one was standing up. Whereas if you go back and you look at, say, Puerto Rico, or you look at Money in the Bank, these guys were never in their seats. They were out of their seats constantly.
To be fair.
And look, I'm even talking, and of course we'll get into all the matches, but even the difficulty Reigns had in trying to drum up the crowd with the little nuances that he does and the little kind of, you know, the hand gestures and stuff like that, they just weren't reacting the way they normally react. And most of the time, especially now, it could be just, maybe it's because SummerSlam, we regard it as one of the big 4 events, so that can be kind of quite a mixed crowd at these big events. Although these days, up till now, they've all been kind of felt like big 4 events. We've said it before on the show. But I just think maybe it's because it was a mixed crowd and stuff like that. Like, you know what you're getting with that UK crowd. They're intense. They're on it, you know. They'll give you the 4 best hours of their life in terms of cheering, booing, out of their seats, signs, everything and stuff like that. Puerto Rico, you know what you're getting down there. The lust for blood down there is just crazy. They will not let you off the hook, and they're so intense. And then we said it on the Saudi show as well, the Night of Champions, how brilliant that crowd has evolved and developed, and their knowledge of wrestling and stuff like that. So they know when to do and what to do to make the show feel like that big show feel and stuff like that. But I just thought last night, I thought Detroit, you know, tough crowd, raucous crowd, no different, you know, kind of on that Philly kind of style and stuff like that. Kid Rock in the building, doing the videos and all that kind of stuff, which is kind of cool. I do like Kid Rock when he's involved in some of the wrestling stuff and things like that, even though, as you said, you do need a few cans of beer in you to kind of enjoy Kid Rock fully. But still, I like when he's involved because it's kind of cool, because historically he's been involved quite a lot, so it kind of gives you that bit of nostalgia effect as well. And he's a Detroit boy as well, so it's kind of cool that way as well.
Speaking of nostalgia, tell you, actually, did you? We had a bit of a joke. Shout out to Tombstone Ted and the G-Man Greg from On the Slab Horror Show, my Brothers in Arms and Retrotainment. We were actually chatting during it, and we were laughing at the start of the show. The song was Steppenwolf, Born to Be Wild, and it came up as Spotify, like, and they wanted to thank Steppenwolf. I was like, are these guys even alive? Is this just from Vince's personal playlist? He was like, you know what, Hunter? I want Steppenwolf on tonight. I'm going with Steppenwolf. We don't have to pay them any royalties, and it's a hell of a tune.
Yeah, I think when they're picking the tunes, sometimes it's either the newest local band that don't look for anything, just want exposure, or else it's definitely someone who you don't have to pay a royalty to. That's the kind of
Vinnie Mac, you know, Jericho always talks about it. Vinnie Mac's a bit of a rocker and roller too, so it sounded like he may have been listening to a bit of Steppenwolf and went, you know what, let's go old school on it. But no, I agree. I think Detroit's a hit and miss crowd as well, depending. Like, we don't see a lot in recent times of the open door, I suppose, shows there. Like, their arenas. What's the name of their arena? Is a Little Caesars Palace. That's where Little Caesars, where the Detroit Red Wings and all play. I think that's usually a pretty hot crowd there in there. But you know, in homage to the great Roy Keane, may we have just got one or two multiplied by maybe a couple of thousand prawn sandwich eaters in there last night also. It looks like it may have been the case.
Possibly, yeah. But sometimes, as you said, when the audio is a little bit off or something like that, or the sound isn't quite right, as you said, it can happen, as Sean says, in an open air stadium. Then I judge it by visually what I'm seeing the crowd doing. Yeah. And I seen the crowd for most of the show last night sitting on their asses, twiddling their thumbs. You know what I mean? And occasionally they jumped up at something. I was more focused on the World Heavyweight Championship and the Universal Heavyweight matches. Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes you can get like that. Sometimes people have selected what they want to see and they're just coasting towards that. But there was a lot of good stuff in the show that should have been recognised by the crowd, but they just seem to zone out and stuff like that. But we'll talk about it. I took a shot during the MMA rules match. Yeah, like probably most of the time and everything else. We will be talking.
You took a shot on a bus.
Sean's in. Yeah, I don't get why they do that for the old songs. They used War Pigs for Survivor Series and said that it was available on iTunes and Spotify.
But that War Pigs was phenomenal because we had Ozzy at the start of it sitting in the throne and bringing the intro in. That was that was one of my favorite intros ever, man. That's up there for me. You know how big of a metalhead I am. That was up there for me with like Lemmy on the shows playing H in there, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just, I think as well, when they say it's available on iTunes and Spotify, I wonder from that date on, do WWE get a little cut if the downloads absolutely surge or something like that?
I'd say so.
I'd say they probably have a hand in it or something like that. I'm wearing a white t-shirt and a baseball cap myself. Fair enough.
What did he say? He doesn't. Sean said, I'll be gutted if I don't get to sing Walk in Wembley. Are you? Oh, he means the Pantera song Walk. He'd be gutted if he doesn't get to see that song with RVD obviously coming out. That was a really
one, because he had a comment earlier saying he was hoping to get RVD versus Jack Perry in London.
Yeah, fair point. Do you know what? We might talk about this later. I've been almost thinking of pulling that trigger and maybe taking a trip to old London myself.
Not expensive, 55 quid for a ticket.
If it's not thinking I might do it.
You'll also as well, you'll get a Chelsea game that weekend somewhere. No doubt they'll be playing somewhere in London or something like that.
Why, is there something else on? That's what I was talking about.
No, but you could kill two birds with one stone.
I know, I'm only kidding.
Yeah.
Teasing.
Sean's back in. Imagine still thinking Triple H wasn't running the company when Ozzy showed up. Do you think Damien cashes in on Raw? Absolutely not. No chance. Right, so let's get into the show. Of course, we've got a great video package to start. Kid Rock, as we said all the time, we love the video vignettes and the packages and everything they do. They're brilliant. Generally speaking, they get you going, they get you out of your seat. You know, they use Kid Rock. So maybe Kid Rock isn't as liked in Detroit as maybe they thought. Maybe that's what happened or something like that didn't get them going.
Well, he's a bit of a southern state man these days. You know what I mean? So it could be political, possibly.
But we kind of knew it leaked on Friday, I think, or Thursday, that we were going to get Ricochet and Logan Paul to kick off the show, because I don't know if you watched the videos or the TikToks today. Logan Paul racing from the stadium, jumping on a jet and getting back to Dallas just in time to support the brother. So that was pretty cool. And he was in the ring gear. He was still in his ring gear and everything.
I was watching it live. Cool. I was watching it live when you saw him coming through the crowd in his ring gear, and he's pushing people out of the way to try and
he couldn't get in there quick enough. And I was thinking, like, it must be, what is it, Detroit to Dallas must be at least 2.5 hours.
I think it was 3 hours flying. I think it was 3. We checked it last night. It was 3.
But he was very clever in the way that he wanted to match. But what he wanted to do is he wanted the boxing community to take a shine onto SummerSlam by keeping the ring gear on him, because 3 hours, you have plenty of time to change in a jet in 3 hours, but he kept the ring gear on him, and he was supporting a lovely shiner there, I say, as well. What was your overall thinking on this one? These two, they're really, really good, aren't they? And like him being the heel and stuff like that's excellent. And I loved at the end as well. You know, Ricochet's girlfriend or fiance, or whatever it is the announcer. And he went over and he was giving her grief at the end and everything and all. You like that and all this, don't you? And she was nearly in tears announcing it. So it was really cool and stuff like that. Give us your thoughts on this one.
I thought, now, it was a bit, to be fair, it was a bit of a spot fest, which you expected from the two guys. I wouldn't be the biggest Ricochet fan in the world, just in terms of his style isn't my cup of tea. However, he's amazing at what he does. That's not to take that away from him, you know what I mean? But I'm looking at the evolution of Logan Paul, and I'm noticing more and more he's actually becoming a better worker than the guys that are supposedly seasoned or, veterans of the game. Just in his little nuances in terms of his pauses in between certain moves. He's going for rest holds. You notice that his heel work is fantastic. He goes for rest holds and acknowledges the crowd. He knows when to look and where to look at the cameras. I've never seen someone get it as quickly as he has. The only other person I can think of, as I say, is probably Angle, who had that stellar year, you know what I mean, and a couple of months training in the Funkin' Conservatory with Dory. He's just, you know what I mean? And don't get me wrong, Ricochet done his part, but when you look at matches with the likes of Bad Bunny coming in, and you know that he needs a good dance partner to kind of help him through it. And you even seen with Logan when he wrestled Seth, you could see Seth was kind of guiding him through a lot of the stuff. But that's his evolution from, say, that match with Seth to like now. It's just night and day, man. It's crazy how good this kid is. Like, he's just money. He really is just money.
As you said, I think his interaction now with the crowd and the psychology side of things, he's getting really good at the moment. And I thought the cheap ending as well was really cool as a heel and stuff like that. It was really good.
An old school 1980s, well, 80s, 70s, 60s, however far you want to go back, putting the knuckle dusters in the tights. Now, a lot of these lads still have them on the hand. Sometimes you see them even in indie shows, and even sometimes on the main shows, boom, into the tights, straight out of the Rick Rude, Mr. Perfect playbook. Bobby the Brain Heenan may as well have been managing him spiritually or something, because that was just genius.
Yeah, I get the feeling looking at him, he's been spending quite the hourage studying the WWE network from back in the day and stuff like that. And he's obviously been listening to people as well. He's obviously getting very good guidance in terms of H and other lads like that and stuff like that, because they've propelled him very quickly and thrust him into some serious situations. And he's generally lapped it up and stuff like that, So, yeah.
Here's one for you, Niall. It's just come to me here, just because I know you like fun like this. I know you like trivia, and I know you like kind of hypothetical situations. Out of the back catalogue, I've one in mind now, so I want to see where you go with this. Out of the back catalogue of classic managers, from the 90s and 80s in WWE, WWF, if he could have a manager, who would you put with him?
Probably Freddie Blassie.
I like that. Do you know who I went with? And there's a bit of you're going to like how my mind works here. I'd go with Mr. Fuji. Because Remember he got done for that whole suicide forest thing and all back in the day. Imagine
Mm,
having Fuji coming out with the Japanese flag and all, and he'd be
yeah,
passing him the salt and passing him the knuckle dusters or whatever he needed to do to cheat.
yeah.
And he wouldn't even have to bring that up. People would just
Mm.
know. Because he doesn't need a mouthpiece because he is a mouthpiece.
Do you know what
Classy.
would be cool? Yeah, Classy would be good. Do you know what would be cool as well? Remember Heel Jimmy Hart when he managed the Hart Foundation? Because
Yeah,
he's outlandish and he's loud and
yeah,
all that kind of stuff and all, you know.
yeah,
But yeah, no, I mean, I suppose. Well, I suppose when you're that talented and you get the business and you get it so quick and stuff like that, I mean, it's it really is. If he commits himself to this, he could go a long way in this business and not just be
yeah,
that kind of. He's kind of like the influencer in pro wrestling, like what Jake's trying to do in the boxing, and both of them are kind of like it's just coming along absolutely crazy for them and
yeah,
stuff like that.
yeah.
But yeah, and then he had to get out of town and straight to Dallas to support the brother. So yeah, but it's really cool, and it's really I kind of enjoyed it, and I kind of thought you were talking earlier when we were off air about the positioning of matches. I thought this, even though it was the opener because he needed to get to Dallas, I thought the position of this was pretty good and should have got the crowd going. And if you look in the background there, the crowd there are kind of up. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? They're up and they're out of their seats. And if you look at the crowd there at the moment, if you look at the guy in the yellow and the guy beside him in the front row, and two guys on the far side near the turnbuckle, they're the guys who were yawning during the women's match. So we'll talk about it later.
They're the prawn
Ace,
sandwich brigade. We need to find
yeah,
out who they are and bring them on the show.
yeah, or never let them go to a wrestling show again. Acers is in again. Chelsea versus Luton, Enos, that weekend. Chelsea versus Luton on Saturday, and then
Yeah.
AEW on the Sunday. So there's your weekend, man. There is your
Boom.
weekend. Eno said he fell asleep. I fell asleep during the Logan Paul Ricochet match. Jake Paul tank entrance was cool. Yeah, no, it was absolutely. Ricochet is on his way. Rikishi, sorry, is on his way. I'm not too sure about that. Logan Paul and Slick. Yeah, Slick's a great shout as well.
Good show.
Are you doing birthdays for wrestlers and stuff after? No, I'm not. We're literally just doing the SummerSlam. I'm going to hit some stuff this week. We will have a show back on the history and the birthday stuff during the week. So not on this one. This is purely going to be SummerSlam. So that was Logan Paul. So then we get on to the next one, and the next one was Cody versus Brock. I thought
What's the first thing you see wrong there? By the way, I noticed it all night. Cody's doing something wrong all night when he was taking the German suplexes. Usually, when you take a German suplex, you're meant to put your arms out flat so you can take the bump and put your head up. He was constantly going like that. See his left shoulder?
So you're taking bent arm into the elbows or something like that, which you shouldn't be doing, is it?
Basically, you're meant to put your arms out as if you're trying to fly. Like think Rose Dawson on the Titanic with Jack when she's at the front. You're meant to be like that. Whereas when you put your elbow back like that,
you can easily pop a shoulder or something.
Asking for it. I was like, is he looking for another injury? And I noticed it all night he was doing it. Now, the only thing I'm thinking, was he thinking he was trying to protect his chest because of what happened with his chest, the pec? But he done it every time, and I thought to myself, Jesus, Cody, you're asking for it here, and hopefully nothing came out of it. But it was just very strange to see from someone like Cody, and it might not seem like a big deal to other people, but trust me, when you take them, it's one of the first things that people actually do when they go into a gym.
And especially from a guy like Lesnar as well, he's such a powerful being. It's
so exactly. So you're actually better off tucking the chin and just letting the bump, happen gradually. But sorry, I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, so that was this. I really liked this match. I was kind of invested in it. We kind of knew Cody was going to go over, but the question was, how clean would it be? Would Lesnar really put him over clean, pushes his positioning on and stuff like that? And I think he did a real good job of that. I thought the stuff sort of putting him out of the ring so much, was quite a bit weird. I think it went on a bit too long and stuff like that. But then it kind of showed the resilience and the desire of Cody to want to keep on going and continue and come back and not give up and all that kind of stuff. But other than that, what did you think about this? Obviously, the Kimura lock as well, which was kind of cool and stuff like that. So,
I enjoyed it. Yeah, you can tell. You can tell Brock loves working good workers, can't you? You
Yeah,
know, and again, if anyone thought and they've never heard me speak about Cody, that wasn't a diss on Cody. It was more me kind of wincing just from experience, going, "Good Lord, I've seen people pop their shoulders a million times doing that." So it wasn't a knock on Cody. It wasn't even a critique. It was more I was trying to come from the standpoint of like why or where. There obviously was a reason behind it. I was just glad I didn't see it pop, but
yeah.
thought it was a very good match, man. Um, Big fan of Cody, as you know. Huge fan of Cody and a huge fan of Brock. Brock just, you can tell when he's up for it, and he loves selling for good workers. You know what I mean?
Mm.
I thought it was a great match, man. The ending was fantastic. Sometimes you don't see enough of that when we see a feud building up with a bit of heat in it, and then it being kind of put to bed then by a shake of the hand, and giving the salute to Cody. I thought was a nice touch at the end. It was just great all round match. I thought.
It is quite if you look over the last couple of years, it's quite a change for Brock as well, isn't it? Because Brock
Yeah,
has been kind of that fuck you kind of guy. You know what I
yeah,
mean? I'm not necessarily here to give guys the rub and stuff like that and all. But I thought it was really cool. And do you know what I thought was really cool as well? The way he took off the gloves as a sign of respect as well. That he wasn't just going to keep the gloves on and stuff like that. I thought that was really cool as well, and the way he did it and stuff like that. And of course, people were probably thinking the obvious where he was going to swerve it and obviously get him up and F5 him a lot of times and leave the building and stuff like that. But it was really, really cool the way he did it. And it was a brilliant way of elevating Cody as well to show the significance of this rubber match and stuff like that, that Cody had won it and won it clean and his desire and stuff like that. And in a week where we got the documentary, which I think is absolutely sensational as well. If you've
yeah.
watched the Cody documentary yet, it's unbelievable. Definitely bring a tear to an eye. It definitely showed me in a different light, how much he actually cares about the business. And we knew that obviously he cared about the business. I mean, the heritage and the lineage and the family and all would state that anyway. But I think it was really significant to show how much he really cared, and this pathway he's on to solidify the legacy of the family and complete the cycle of history that the dad kind of started and stuff. Really, really cool and stuff like that. And obviously we'll get into later on the bloodline match, of course, and how significantly it's linked to this and stuff like that as well. So we'll talk about that later as well, of course. Kenny's in. Did I miss something with this match? When did it become a no DQ match? When is there DQs these days anyway? Lads going through announcer tables, post steps, everything, the whole lot. Lads showing up and kicking each other, lads jumping out of the crowd. Lads, dare I say, in AEW, lads getting banned from ringside and coming back down and interfering in matches and still not getting DQs.
I know
So
what's worse in the referee's mind, holding on to a submission attempt or to a hold for longer than 5 seconds, or using the announce table as a foreign object.
or closed fists. We go on
So,
and on and on, like what I mean.
Jesus,
The rules are not really there anymore, in
no.
fairness. But yeah, great show, Kenny. Aces Brock Lesnar on Fastlane pay-per-view card. Yeah, interesting. Acers Brock Lesnar told Cody Rhodes after the match that he's ready to defeat Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 40. Absolutely, but I think that could be a bit of pathway in this. But yeah, all round, really enjoyed this one. I thought it was a cool way to give Cody that elevation and stuff like that. And like I said, the pathway is now kind of open with what evolved at the end of the pay-per-view and stuff like
Yeah,
that. Let's get into this. LA Knight. Let me talk to
yeah,
you. Yeah.
yeah.
What was your thinking on this? Of course, we love the name of it, the Slim Jim Summerslam Battle Royal. When we think of Slim Jim, we think of Macho Man and all that, so kind of cool and stuff like that. And but this kind of, as you said, depending on positioning in the card and stuff like that, or whether it was called for, obviously all these guys have to find a way to get some sort of pay-per-view payment, if you like, or stuff like that. But I suppose what it did show is the dominance of Omos as a monster, but it also showed. I thought it was really cool the way they booked it. Normally these battle royals are just throwaways, as you know, but I thought it was cool the way it came down to LA Knight and Sheamus, and we know that Sheamus he's heavily respected in the company and stuff like that. He's won it all and done it all and stuff like that. And it came down to him eliminating him, which I thought kind of gave LA Knight another little bit of elevation there, even though he's so over with the crowds and stuff like that and all at the moment. But yeah, it was interesting. But I also liked the way Cross and AJ Styles continued their kind of storyline. So we got a little bit of storyline within the Battle Royal. So it wasn't just a normal throwaway Battle Royal, which is what you normally get for, for an Andre the Giant trophy or whatever the hell it is and stuff like that, So what was your thoughts on this one? I know you had reservations about it being on it and also the positioning of it.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it should have been a pre-show, to be honest with you. But I get if they are actually trying to build LA Knight, which I don't trust the company to do, because I don't really trust them to build anyone other than, these clowns wearing ridiculous outfits out to the ring just because the crowd chant along, LA Knight is legit. I mean, he has the look, he has everything in between. I heard idiots on the internet critiquing him because they said, "Oh, he's just like a blend of The Rock and Austin, like a rip-off." I just went, "How's that a bad thing?"
Exactly. If he's a blend of The Rock and the Austin, I'm all in. I'm all in on it.
because technically he's not just one, he's both. So therefore he's studying the greats. But man, he's a hell of a worker. He's a good look. I mean, he's in Dynamite Kid type shape, and he works and acts kind of like the top stars, acts like a star. Shout out to Jordan Devlin McDonough on the show as well. He didn't last long, unfortunately, but still good to see him there. It was grand, and as I say, it's fine if they're gonna actually build them. I just don't know whether I trust the company to build, to pull the trigger on them, so to speak.
Yeah, I think they might test the water. Racers is right there. LA Knight defeating Austin Theory at Payback for the US Championship. I think that Austin Theory needs a bit of a shake-up. It's gone very stale, so I wouldn't be surprised at all. But yeah, giving them the US belt might be that dipping the toe in the water and test it and see what way it's going to go.
Mm-hmm.
Kenny is in. LA is money. Absolutely love his work. Huge pop with his entrance. Yeah, he's just so over at the moment. And I hope, as Ian said, I hope the company don't. I know that they stalled on it a little bit there a month or so ago because apparently he was going around backstage with his head like those big-headed U2s or something like that, and they wanted to bring him down a peg or two and stuff like that. But I can understand with the
which is ridiculous because you want your stars walking around like that. I mean, we can mention a certain name that I'm always getting in trouble for bringing up back in the 90s, who was walking around basically going backstage and telling people to their face in front of the boss, top that bitch. If your name is Shawn Michaels, it's okay to do it. If your name is Triple H, it was okay to do it. But hey, it's the modern day. LA Knight shouldn't have a big head or be walking around with confidence. Let's teach him a lesson and bring him down to earth. I'm going to say 3 words. Ask my BX. There you go.
As the Warrior said back in the day, I'll shake the ropes if I want.
There you go, man. There you go.
There's your example. I'll shake the ropes if I want.
You're always hearing Stone Cold saying that he'd love to see these lads going out and taking a chance and acting with confidence and just taking risks. Yeah. And then you get punished for it. It's just nonsense now. And we have no proof that is the case, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was a case. Oh, you can't have too much of a big head. You got to be like Sheamus. You got to be a good ass kisser around here.
Yeah. Because they had I mentioned on a show, I think last week or when we were doing the preview, that apparently Triple H had planned something big for LA Knight on the night. And of course, once he puts out something like that, everyone starts thinking The Rock or Stone Cold's going to show up or whatever it is. And everyone just goes off on a tangent and then no one shows up and everyone thinks, oh, that was shit. You know what I mean? So it's kind of weird that way as well. But
we just don't know who's running the show either. We still don't know if it's Vince fully back in the seat, behind the scenes going, no, we're not doing that. Don't forget, it's still my company, lads. But yeah, you can do the rest. You know what I mean? I get that feeling. Or else H has just gone. I hope not, but unless H has just gone completely.
Maybe H is starting to believe his own hype. That's been going around. H says WWE are heavily pushing LA Knight and his sister on Raw and SmackDown at the moment. Yeah, absolutely cool. Let's move on then. This is one sure to generate a bit of conversation. I am not invested in this in any way. I've been quite critical of both girls since they came in. I don't see the star power that should be there or is perceived to be there and all that kind of thing. And I've spoken about it at nauseous, if you like. Shayna Baszler, of course, picking up the win with a technical submission. We know that Ronda's winding down on the contract. She's out the door or almost out the door. Maybe she's finished now at SummerSlam. Shayna getting the kind of rub. This didn't feel like a stadium match.
No.
This felt like a match that you get on a Raw or, maybe a special event on a midweek Wednesday or something like that. Or, like maybe a Saturday night's main event even or something like that. It didn't feel like a match. Two of them both kind of heels. None of them carrying any real favor with the crowd. And
they both looked like they were either trying on some of the demons' face paint before they came out, or else they hugged them,
or they bet the piss out of each other at the gorilla position before they went out or something like that. But I've been very questionable of both of these. I just, if you think they're cool or someone thinks they're cool, fine, I'm good with that. I just don't get it. And I can see why she's kind of exiting the building. I think if you look back on her career at WWE, I'd say WWE is kind of disappointed in the return on their investment, I would say, because I'm sure they're paying her a truckload of money. And I don't think it's kind of delivered, to be honest. Shayna, I think, is slightly different.
It has and it hasn't, to be fair. She's had good moments, but like it's not. It looks to me in the ring like her trajectory has kind of stayed. It should have went up, but it kind of just stayed and then plateaued a little bit. It looks to me like she hasn't been putting the work in the not in the gym now, Jesus Christ. So I'm not talking about her appearance. I'm talking about in the actual ring. Whereas it's night and day to what we talked about with Logan Paul earlier, really, isn't it? When you're looking at these kind of celeb type people coming in and actually putting in the work. Ronda just kind of looked like she learned how to bump and that's it. She doesn't look like she wants to get better, basically.
Yeah, it kind of feels as well like you get the feeling looking at her and looking at her work as well, like it's the last place on the planet she wants to be.
Yeah.
That kind of way. It's kind of, we spoke about it before with Bobby Lashley as well. He was an unbelievable athlete. He should be a megastar and stuff like that. But he always looks like it's the last place he wants to be. He never looks like he's happy in his work. That kind of way. And with these, it was just kind of, I don't know, what did you overall think about it? The referee at the start telling them the rules and all, it was kind of cool, so laid the foundation. But this, I don't know, when you put these two together, it's like they've been working for so long either with each other or for so long with other people involved, like a Becky or a Sasha or whatever it is. And you need that kind of person in there. When you don't have it, it's kind of just a bit mundane for me, I think.
I think we should move on from it.
Fair enough. But let us know your thoughts in the comments, what you thought of it anyway. Eno's in, sure, Tony Khan must be the love child of Harry Potter and that nerdy dad from Honey, which shrunk the kids.
Very random
Random comment of the day. Not sure what it has to do with Ronda and Shayna, but Shayna Baszler is not NXT black and gold badass killer. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely not. You're right, spot on there. Right, let's get into the next one. The next one was Gunther versus Drew McIntyre. And this was a match I was quite excited about. I think anything with these two boys involved, I think is always going to be hard-hitting, very real. I wasn't surprised at the outcome because we know he's trying to put Honky's record away. And that's still, I think, a couple of weeks to go, if I'm right. I think it's around, am I right? I think it's around the 8th or 10th of September is when it falls or something like that. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know Aces will know it off by heart in the chat anyway. But I know he hasn't hit it yet. But I kind of, where I liked it, it was a good technical match and stuff like that. They beat the absolute piddly out of each other and stuff like that. Kind of expected a bit more. Drew is back. This is his comeback match. He's in there against arguably one of the biggest rising stars in the company. What Gunther has done in the last 18 months to 2 years been phenomenal. The shape he's gotten into, the matches he's laid down, the hard-hitting stuff, those wars with Sheamus, all that kind of stuff. And it's kind of, I just felt a little bit more was needed. What was your thoughts on it?
I dare say that the previous match and this match may have had something to do with the decline of the crowd. If I'm honest,
Yeah.
I think they flattened it. They flattered to deceive both matches, but this one in particular. I am not a fan of chops for the sake of chopping. You know my opinion on it. Just not a fan of it. I know it sounds great and looks great and all, but I don't. I'm not a big fan of it personally. But of course, I see the intrigue because it's natural as humans. You like to see people beat the piss out of each other. So it's, that's a psychological thing. I just think I expected a lot more from these two guys. It felt like neither of them were able to kind of pick the crowd back up. Sometimes in a match you can just do something like a little nuance or something that will change the trajectory of the way the crowd is going. And it felt like these two were just kind of sticking to their plan that they had and just went with it and hoped that that they would get the crowd back on side, but they really didn't. I found it. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a bad match. I wouldn't turn around and say it was a bad or piss poor match, but it wasn't great. I think it flattered to deceive. I think you're 100% right. I'd be inclined to agree with you.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking if this was in the UK, if this was a Money in the Bank match, I think because of that kind of old British kind of style of violence and brutality and stuff like that, I think the crowd would get more into it. I think, as you said, I think Shayna and Ronda definitely flattened it out. And this was probably not the match to follow it because this was just going to be a hard-hitting kind of brawl and stuff like that. And maybe I kind of expected a little bit more from Gunther because if you remember his match against Matt Riddle at the last pay-per-view, I think it was,
yeah,
there was less chops in it and there was a bit more about it and stuff like that. But obviously we know with Drew as well. Drew was kind of, it's that hard-hitting style as well. And I think it does match up as well. And I think probably looking at it, I think probably they need another chance maybe to go again. Because I just think it didn't hit what maybe they wanted it to hit. And it's a difficult one as well because we do know going in, Gunther they want to take away Honky's record. So Gunther's going to break the record. So therefore, by not reaching it yet, the belt ain't going nowhere. So kind of when the result precedes the match, it's very hard as well to cheer for your boy and get up for your boy and stuff like that and all.
Yeah, when you know what way it's going, especially on a big pay-per-view, it's very hard to get emotionally invested in it. Very hard.
Yeah. Acers is in. I'm hoping that WWE bring back the Honky Tonk Man day after Gunther beats his record to get chopped down. I'd be thinking the other way. I thought they'd bring him back to take the belt off and
smash the guitar over his head. Yeah,
yeah, absolutely. Jeff Jarrett style, absolutely. This wasn't as good as the triple threat at Mania or the Sheamus match, but it was still good. Yeah, exactly. And I think that's kind of what we're saying here, even when we talk about the pay-per-view, because they've been knocking it out of the ballpark. Every month the pressure is on to either repeat at that level or go above that level again. And they have been on a crest of a wave, and sometimes that wave just crashes against the shore, and where it might look good in terms of how you put it together, sometimes it just doesn't deliver.
Yeah.
And Ian's saying fans talk about LA Knight. He's not the only one. There's Tony Khan. So that's my point.
Oh, okay. It was his earlier point that he made, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely, yeah. Next up was the World Heavyweight match. We need to talk about that. I thought I had a slide for it, but I don't, obviously. Maybe it didn't save or didn't whoop. But we'll talk about this. This is one you'll probably want to talk about because I think we've been nearly chasing Balor's rise to the top of the mountain as much as I was chasing Undertaker's streak being broken. And it's becoming now a very long, laborious road that we're running here, dating back nearly to our days on the Four Podmen. And it's been escalating into disappointment after disappointment after disappointment. And we're trying to figure out, when does this trigger get pulled? And will it be a case where it doesn't get pulled and get destroyed? When we're going to talk about the women's match, of course, which is just crazy stuff altogether. But how did you feel about this one? I thought, before you get into it, I thought the way they did the ending and all, I thought was kind of cool. The way it hung together and strung together, and created that narrative between this whole narrative of Priest and Balor and stuff like that, and that struggle, that inner struggle within the Judgment Day and stuff like that is escalating all the time to, it's nearly like a pimple that won't pop, that kind of way.
Yeah.
And it's going to pretty soon. I suppose what I didn't want to see is Balor wins the title and Priest cashes in or something like that. It just it just kills us again, kind of thing, after everything else. What was your thoughts on it? I mean, these guys have so much history now, and I thought when Balor came out, the 7 on the chest was cool. That was cool, and I really enjoyed during the match as well the way he did kind of sets moves on set, and especially the one that injured him when he threw him into the barricade and stuff like that. But of course, Balor being so safe as well, he put him in halfway down, so there was no catching your arm on the top or anything,
Yeah, isn't it amazing what you can do when you know how to work?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's amazing what you can achieve when you actually know how to work and don't concentrate on what stupid chant you're going to do or looking like Cinderella coming to the ball. I'm going to be controversial here and call it for like it is. I think people are crazy to rate Seth Rollins above the likes of Balor and Cody and people like that for his in-ring work. The guy is an absolute menace to society. People are lucky to get away with a limb sometimes when wrestling this guy. I believe he split his tongue with a forearm. So it's like every time Balor goes into this match, he's like obviously telling the missus, listen, I'm probably going to not look the same way when I come home tonight, but, it is what it is. He's just so fucking unsafe at times. I don't get him. I don't get Seth Rollins. I know I'm going to upset Dazzler here, but I don't give a shite if I do, because I'm calling it like I see it. He wears the most ridiculous outfits. Fair enough. Be flamboyant, blah, blah, blah. That's all great and all. But who is he? Who is Seth Rollins? What is he like? Is he just a mix of the Joker, mixed with Jack Nicholson, mixed with Cinderella, like I said? Does he just sit? Is he engulfed in his kids' fucking Disney cartoons that he's watching? And that's like, that makes a star? No. I don't get it. I think it's ridiculous. He's obviously one of those that does something really good backstage. I'm not too sure. Says the right things to the right people because he's always been pushed in their faces. But I don't know what Balor needs to do. I mean, outsell Roman Reigns in T-shirts. Yeah, he did that in the past and he didn't pull the trigger. Be up there with John Cena. Yeah, he did that in the past. Didn't pull the trigger. John Cena actually basically gave him the nod of approval, if you recall. Reigns loves working with him. Everyone loves working with him. Twice the worker that pretty much, I'd say Balor, to be fair, because when you know, he's probably twice the worker as anyone on the roster, bar maybe Roman, just in terms of where Roman is at that level. But in terms, so it's not all about moves, you know what I mean? I'm not talking about moves and such. But I mean, you never get, I'm not a star ratings guy, but you never get a bad match out of him. You're always, what do we use in football? We always say a good footballer is like always a safe, 7 or 8 out of 10. Mm. He's always at least that, and then some. He's over. So I don't get it. I just don't get what it is. If it's H's decision, I'm mystified. If it's Vince, what? Priest is 6 inches taller than him, so yeah, we're going to go with Priest. I mean, Rollins isn't that much bigger than him, so I don't know whether it's a size thing. I just don't get it, and I'm hoping that they're going to pull the trigger soon, but something tells me from last night that that's not going to be the case. The match was good. The match was good.
I have to say, I thought the match, when I watched it, I thought the crowd did them dirty. I really thought the crowd did them dirty.
I agree.
I have to say that match for me was far superior to the previous one they had. I thought the previous one that they had was a letdown on so many levels for 2 guys in there working. We spoke about the vignette that they put together, the 7 years, the build up, all that kind of thing. And it kind of really let itself down. I thought this one was a much, much better match in terms of the actual match and stuff like that. But I think probably the halting of Finn arriving at the belt, or closing that circle that we say is still open because of what happened. I think a lot of it is to do with they know what's happening with the bloodline, and now they need the Judgment Day to step up. It needs to become this huge deal. And I think that's why they can't have it happen so quick at the same time as the bloodline, the way it's evolving.
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, when you look at WWE at the moment, we're loving LA Knight, we're loving Gunther, we're loving all these other different parts and stuff like that. But realistically, the two facets in there are the bloodline and the Judgment Day, and they kind of rule somewhat the two shows. I know you've Brock and Cody and all that kind of thing, but
you just mentioned Gunther there, and sorry, I didn't mean to cut across it, but just because I'll lose it if I don't say it now. I hope you don't mind. Sorry. You mentioned LA Knight and Gunther there. Let's be real here. Take the size away and the bodies away. Balor is a much better worker than these guys. He really is. Don't forget, this is the guy that. I know you're not saying this. I know you're not saying it. Sorry, I don't mean to imply that you were. I'm just saying it. If we go back, 5-6 years ago, we were all saying it. This guy was the one that H wanted. The one that H wanted. You know what I mean?
But the funny thing, I don't think that's changed. I think that's still the same. But I think what they're trying to do is...
Then that's the question.
No, but I don't think it's even that. I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to protect that bubbling up and boiling up of what's going on within the Judgment Day. So when it does unfold and when it explodes... like Rhea at the moment is a huge star. We know that. Dominic is unbelievable at the moment. If you look at his pathway in the last 6 to 12 months and what's unfolded has been unbelievable. Priest looks every bit a star and stuff like that. And if he does cash in and get that elevation into a title, it's going to be huge for him. But Balor is kind of like, isn't he that key sitting in the lock that unlocks all this and propels all this and stuff like that? So the problem is, if you do push him into that situation, and then it all unfolds so quick. Doesn't unfold too quick in terms of, then it, it's like you bolted and it's done. Then what happens? I think maybe that's what they're trying to do. I think what they're trying to do is hold fire on the Judgment Day before it explodes and give it a bit of longevity, like what they've done with the bloodline, because we can see how the bloodline at the moment is unraveling. And that's been the biggest thing in there, let's be honest, for the last 2 to 3 years. Everything has been about the bloodline, it's been massive. And we've also revered and we've complimented them on how they've done it, the traditional way, the old school way, the longevity, all that kind of cool stuff. So I think maybe that might be what they're trying. Sean's in here, you're right about them knocking it out of the park, but it stings a little more because it's SummerSlam. And that's the thing, and that's what I spoke about on the last review, I think, of Money in the Bank. A lot of these prime events and stuff like that they're doing now, they all feel like part of the Big Four now, as opposed to the Big Four historically and then all these other events, you know what I mean? You look at that Money in the Bank. Money in the Bank nowadays can nearly stand up to most of the pay-per-views and stuff like that.
You know what it is? It's the old WCW formula where you were giving them too much on every single pay-per-view, rather than building to the Big Four. Do you know what I mean? So, sometimes we might be able to hold out for a month or two to get those big matches, and it will feel a little bit more. You know what I mean? Let it fester. You made a good point there, though. I think you're right. I mean, I get it. There might be long-time storytelling in this, and if that's the case, it's great. I personally think the way to go, we were having a conversation last week about it. I think the way to go now at this point, because of last night, because I think a lot of us thought that Balor would win it, and that would be the feud then between him and Priest. Whereas I think now you need to get Priest to cash in on it and be the one to win it, and then have that jealousy fester in the background. Let them keep making up and fester in the background, and eventually get Balor back as a babyface then, and him go and maybe get his moment. You know what I mean? I think might be the best way to go. Yeah,
which is, if you think about what you've just laid out there, it's kind of the way we thought they might go with the Bloodline and the Usos. But yet they didn't do that either. So they're kind of letting these things fester and stuff. That Sean's right. The near falls in the fourth quarter, some of those near falls were really, really cool and stuff like that. This should have been the match they had at Money in the Bank. It should have been, and it wasn't.
And can I say, Sean, as well? I just want to say, I know I went on a rant about Rollins there earlier. That's not to say that I don't think he can work or that he's good. I mean, I'd be an idiot if I turned around and said that he can't work. Of course, the kid can work. I find him sloppy. Not sloppy. I find him a little bit lackadaisical sometimes in his execution of certain things that leads to injuries or someone getting a broken nose like John Cena, or I know I don't want to keep bringing up the past, but there's just these little things that happen quite regularly that irk me more.
Yeah, I think in fairness, if you look over the last, say, 12 to 18 months, I think his body of work has been pretty good in fairness compared to where it was.
Oh, no, 1,000,000%. And I've given him props on this channel and my channel. So it's not like, and again, I'm not saying that he's shit, because I don't believe that's the case, but I also don't believe that he is as good as some of these guys. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, no problem. You know the deal is in. Big up. Thanks for joining us. Judgment Day looked pretty stupid at the end of the day. They had the numbers game versus set and couldn't figure it out. They did, but if you look very quickly, Rhea and Dominic got their pay-per-view pay and it got taken out pretty quick and pretty unceremoniously as well. I love the way Dom took the kick as well, straight down into the curb stomp as well. It was really, really cool. And if you think about it, it was no harm bringing that down a tad, because they've been running riot on NXT and running riot on all the other shows and stuff like that. So it's nice to kind of just tame it down a little bit. So it's not too consistent in what we're getting, so it still keeps us thinking and stuff like that. And then once those two boys were taken out, the narrative then was always going to be Finn and Damian Priest. And I thought that's really cool in the way they said it and stuff like that and all. And, even that ending when they were there.
It was strange the way they were saying, no, I don't want because in fairness, Priest's facial expressions in it were absolutely fantastic. Because he was looking going, I'm trying to help you.
Yeah, because kind of what I thought at Money in the Bank, I was kind of thinking, what the fuck? This is kind of messed up. When I got it this time, I was thinking, okay, now we know where we're going.
Makes sense.
And that's why I thought, from that point of view, I thought it was pretty cool. But yeah, absolutely. Sean is in as well. Love Finn, but if he had a little more charisma, he'd be leaps and bounds above Seth. I think, something? I think he has all the charisma in the world. I think they need to give him the opportunity to put it out there, because we've seen in the past when they do give him the mic and they give him the time, he's well able to put it out there.
Because you recall back in the day, that was the one concern that most people had, including me and including many of his students and including many of his friends, was the one thing was like, what's he going to be like on the mic? Because you didn't really get a lot of it on the mic in New Japan. You just got little vignettes backstage. But as soon as he kind of grew into that and the heel work in NXT, I think that elevated him. But 100%. What was that previous comment? Sorry.
Sean said it's not Finn's fault, though WWE had so many chances to pull the trigger on him and didn't do that. Their fault. Plus his entrance was great and they've watered it down. I think that kind of naturally happens when you become part of a faction as well, doesn't it? It just naturally kind of gets a little bit watered down and stuff like that. And we have said in previous shows as well, if you look at the Judgment Day, he kind of does feel like the odd guy out a little bit, even though he's probably, dare I say, the most talented guy in the group. I know Rhea is absolutely amazing at the moment, but if you look at the body of work and stuff like that, but I think, it's amazing how they constructed it in a way that the most talented guy is the guy who looks the odd man out and stuff like that. So,
because he's like the Rhea and Priest, they kind of look like metalheads, and then you've got Dom, who's kind of got the long hair and he just goes with the flow, whereas Fergal just looks like he's an essay or something, doesn't he? He looks like Conan back when he was hanging out with the NWO.
The deal is in. Seth and his sing-along entrance is beyond annoying. Not sure how he's so over.
Thank you. You know the deal. Whoever the deal is, if you have a name, please give it to me.
I bet, do you know something on this as well, which is really crazy? At one point, this became quite babyface. If you remember when this all started out, this was quite heelish. You know what I mean? And somewhere along the line, the lines got blurred, and suddenly he became so over, and the entrance became so over and stuff like that. And we know wrestling crowds, they do love a good old sing song.
Well, it's like you had Shinsuke Nakamura was the original one when people went, ooh. And it's like, then they didn't.
So now they needed someone else because now they don't care about Shinsuke.
But Seth is on his millionth chance at changing his gimmick, and he's still up there at the top. So again, it all boils back to politics. What has this guy got that others don't? I mean, like it is a fair question, no?
Well, you got to remember as well, he's a H guy as well. Let's not
Of
forget
course
that.
he is.
He's
Of
a
course
H
he is.
guy equally as much as Balor.
His
Acers is in.
mouth,
I told you we could rely on him, couldn't I?
him and
Gunther.
Sheamus's mouth are literally precisionally sized for H.
Pacers. I
I'll
told you,
say no
Gunther
more.
beats the record on Saturday, September the 9th. I told you I was out by a day. I said September the 10th. I was out by a day.
That's only a day. That's all
Cut
right.
me
You
some
can't be
slack.
giving you that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Come on.
absolutely. And sure, if it's WWE, they tell you he's broken anyway. You know the deal. Can we just book Gunther versus Dragunov? We could.
But they won't.
Maybe no, I don't think so. That won't be the way that will go. I wouldn't have thought so anyway. Look, they've enough factions imploding as it is. They don't need any more of it. They need to hang on to a few of them. Acers, Vince McMahon doesn't like small wrestlers. That's why Finn will never get a run with top title until Vince McMahon isn't in charge of creative. I don't believe that at all. I know people talk about that, but I don't really believe that.
Vince gave him.
Everyone knows Balor's money. Everyone knows Balor's money.
But Vince gave him the title at SummerSlam back in the day. So I mean, that was Vince's call. So obviously there was a reason, you know.
Do you know what's interesting as well? The way they talk. Some people talk about how these guys are coming in there now and they're the platform for creating stars and pushing stars on and stuff like that. That to me, if a wrestler's in that mode, like you see the way Brock's doing with Cody and various other people and stuff like that. I think that's nearly as cool as having a title. That if you're in that position if you're in a position where you're so good that you're able to elevate these guys into that top level position of superstardom, I think that to me, if I was a worker, would feel as much as a title. It'd be really cool.
Can I concur with that? Like that is the best. Like it would be the best feeling, 100%. Like my win-loss record in my wrestling days is pretty on the loss side.
Dramatic.
You know what I mean? My babyface appearances were quite low as well, as you know. But the best feeling was putting someone over when you know that your peers know. Do you get me?
Yeah. Your
peers know the work that's gone into what you've done.
But it must be cool as well when the crowd get it as well.
Of course.
The crowd can see what you're doing. Like if you look at that Cody and Brock match the other last night or this morning or whatever it is, Brock comes out of that match with so much credit as well.
Of course.
And and when you look at if you look at Brock's situation and where Brock has been and all the titles he's won and everything that he's done in his career and stuff like that, to be able to elevate yourself still, as well as bringing that guy with you even higher, must be a cool feeling as well, especially when it's right. As you said, when Brock is fully invested in, it's really, really cool and stuff like
100%.
that. Acers in Damian Priest versus Vin at Payback. Loser leaves Judgment Day. Interesting. Can you imagine? Let's move on then. Let's clean out these last two matches. One we probably won't spend too much time on. The women's match. Let's talk about the women's match. Where do we begin with this one?
Can I just say, good Lord, we talked about placement. Would you dare say, Niall, there was rumor that it was up in the air. Now, it's only a rumor. I don't know this for a fact that they were possibly switching the two world title matches in terms of main event positioning.
Yeah.
Purely because it was Seth and Finn, and it was a tag team wrestler versus, the guy, so to speak. This match, my God, it was Charlotte's changed in many ways.
Just a tad. Just a tad.
Look, again, Charlotte is another one that irks me. It's just like, my God, another one that just doesn't know how to execute moves anymore, and it's all about her acrobatics and I don't know.
Yeah, the boys are in the chat here about the set entrance. We've triggered something here. Let's go back. Sean says, I love Seth's entrance, but there's been a lot of great sing-along entrances, but eventually they end. Seth doesn't. Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to talk about it in a second. In fairness, it's probably gas crack to sing along to live. It is actually. We sing at Clash of the Castle.
I'd say so. I'd sing along to it live too.
That set sing along is just as annoying as that rotten watch chant.
Come on, Kenny.
We like the watch chant on this
Come
show.
on,
We like
Kenny.
that watch
Come
chant.
on, Kenny.
Do you know what the thing about it is? I don't mind his entrance until he's standing in the middle of the ring and it goes on for another 2 or 3 minutes. That's when it becomes annoying. I'm not as worried about the coming down the aisle and arriving at the ring. It's when he's standing there and the opponent is in the corner twiddling his thumbs and it's going on and on and on and on. And I was thinking, we could get another 2 minutes of wrestling in this match if we didn't have to.
You know, there's a good chance one day that man's going to want to fight me because he's going to be over here in Ireland at some point, and we're kind of friends of friends. He'd be like, "Well, I heard what you were saying about me." I'm like, "You did."
Yeah. And what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
Speaking of Finn, he was supposed to face Edge at TakeOver Dublin all that time ago. What could have been? Absolutely. Could still happen. Still happen. Edge ain't finished yet. Vince McMahon loves big, sweaty men. There's a statement. Guild is in. How are you, Guild? Good to see you. At Sean SC. Hot take alert. Yeah, absolutely. Hot take alert. Sean, would you ever consider returning Dynamo?
No. I'm retired. I'll go back and do a bit of charity boxing. That's what I'll do. Yeah,
I think it's hard to give up being a fan, isn't it? If you go back to it, I'd imagine it's more fun just being a fan. Being a wrestling fan is great.
I'm happy with the contacts I've made, with the experiences I've had, and with the being able to sit in the porch and look back and say, do you know what? Some people, even if they only had one match, their dream was to do something, but they had one match in front of a crowd. You've technically achieved something. You know what I mean? I was lucky to be in and around it for, a number of years and made some great friends out of it and have a lot of friends that have made it to the tippy top that we're speaking about now. And I actually take a lot of pride in looking at the likes of Becky and Jordan and Virgil and looking at what they've done. And to me, that's amazing to know that I was a small little part of that really, impressive group. So I'm able to sit back now and enjoy talking with my good pal Niall, the shopkeeper Hogan, and listen to all you crazy lunatics give us your opinions. That's great.
Absolutely. Sean's back in. Match was shite. Crowd were flatter than a pancake, and the Bianca injury spot was really bad to do. Since the crowd were dead now, they were concerned too. EO's cash-in saved the thing for me. Absolutely. I thought of Bianca's injury, and you know what it reminded me of? Remember Flair's hobble at Money in the Bank, I think it was, at Mania 22. I witnessed that live as well, and that was utterly as bad. And I was just thinking, this is just crazy and stuff like that. And I just thought as well, it was so cunty as well, the way they put the belt on Bianca. I'd say they talked to Charlotte, and Charlotte said, no. You're not messing with me like that. Give it to Bianca. It was class. It was just, you can imagine the conversations backstage with the agent on this match, couldn't you? Yeah, what happens is whoever wins the belt now, she's going to come in and cash in with Damage Control and all that kind of stuff. And it's going to be all about Damage Control and Dakota Kai coming in and that moment and Io Sky having the belt and all. And they're looking at Charlotte and Charlotte going, ain't cashing in on me. See ya.
Yeah, 100%.
Ian's in. You would have to agree with that Money in the Bank comment. I would, Ian. The only thing I would say is I think if it gets a bit too structured, it takes away from the excitement of the surprise of it, if you like. That's the only thing. Bonkers LFC is in. How are you? Do you think Cody should have been DQ'd? I could probably make that case bonkers for about 5 wrestlers last night on SummerSlam, but just those things just don't happen anymore.
The rules are bonkers. The rules are bonkers.
Tell me this in the chat as well. I don't know whether I can remember. When's the last time we've seen someone getting a DQ on a pay-per-view? Interesting.
I'd love to see it again.
We'll give Acers 2 minutes. He'll have it in about 2 minutes in the chat.
He will.
He's a good man. Sean, it's like my lovely horse. It's just the same 3 notes over and over again. My lovely horse. I love that, Sean. Love it. Io Sky looks like a waitress in a Japanese-Chinese restaurant.
Jesus.
That's a bit harsh. I think she looks phenomenal, to be honest. At Guild, it's WC Gobshite. Brilliant.
kicking
Yeah,
off.
I just thought this match. I hate triple threat matches anyway. I just don't like triple threat matches. And do you know the funny thing about it? This is kind of contradictory to what I think. I always think of triple threat matches, as you know, as being like a singles match with a bolt on that spends time outside on the floor. And I was thinking, so you don't get that feel normally of a triple threat match. With this one was the opposite, and it made me even hate it worse because the three of them were spending way too much time together in the ring, and there was no kind of chemistry between them. Nothing kind of linked up. Everything was kind of slow and safe and methodical, and there was no kind of adventure really. You seen Charlotte doing the moonsault to the outside, and she landed on her feet, totally missed the girl and stuff like that and all. But it was just kind of, there was no real chemistry there, and you'd wonder kind of what happens now with Asuka, kind of after bringing out this new character and stuff like that. That's now after getting a kick in the nuts, basically. And you know, where do they go with her character now and all this kind of thing? Bianca now, you know, is probably not going to be happy because she was probably used as the pawn in the match to get the win and then get cashed in on. Charlotte was probably having none of it. And it was kind of weird as well because when you look at Charlotte and you look at the pitch of that women's evolution and how good the women's stuff has been over the last X amount of years, let's say, it's really weird when you look at Charlotte as well, when she's not in there with a real quality dance partner, you know, like a Becky or a Sasha or a Bailey or whatever it is. It just doesn't look right. Sure, it doesn't.
No, not at all. Not at all. It's a decline, personally. It's a decline. That moonsault, yeah. I mean, didn't we hear Bret Hart talk a few months ago about AEW when they're talking about when they're all standing outside, just basically 20 guys waiting on someone to jump over a rope? I counted about 20 seconds last night while Charlotte was getting up on the ropes, and Bianca Belair was just standing there going like that. Like, good Lord, it's like a glitch in a computer game, isn't it? Nonsense. I prefer to move on to the main event now and talk about this, to be honest with you, because it was absolutely shocking.
Yeah, you know the deal was in. The crowd was out after the awful Ronda match, and this triple threat was a complete paint by numbers match. 0 build equals 0 results. Spot on.
We said that earlier, didn't we?
There you go. You know the deal by name. You know the deal by nature.
My man.
Sean, so Sandhagen and Font was shite too. So there was no good MMA last night.
Yeah. We needed some Danhausen in the arena last night. I'm joking.
Right, let's get on to the main event. This was the meat and gravy of this event and stuff like that, and it was it certainly delivered. I was listening to a lot of guys on TikTok today and all reviewing and stuff like that, and they were going, if Meltzer doesn't give this 5 stars, he should give up. This kind of thing, which is kind of cool to hear. I know you would totally agree with that. What was your thoughts on this one? This was kind of cool. There was a lot of narrative to it. There was a lot of layers. Could have went a long way, and a lot of different ways and stuff like that. A lot of people maybe thought that maybe Jay's time had arrived, and it could have, and it wouldn't potentially have been as disappointing. It wouldn't have been disappointing, I don't think, as the storyline was laid out. But there was always that thing in the background with Jimmy. There was always that kind of tension between the two bros, and they sold this well over a year ago. This is a year in the build-up arriving at this point, you know, and it's kind of cool when you see it this way. I don't know about you, but I'm looking at Roman. He's excellent. But I get the feeling. Are you starting to feel maybe he needs a little bit of time off our screens now? Does that the feeling that you get that it's kind of, you know, this tribal chief, the only one and stuff like that? But I thought the way they did it, I thought was really, really cool. And, you know, and it was very clear with the hood up. It was always Jimmy and stuff like that, you know. The shiny white runners give it away straight away anyway, you know. But it was cool like that, and it was kind of emotional. It ran a bit deep as well when brothers turn on each other, and especially twin brothers turn on each other. It ratchets it up a notch. But what I thought out of this was really cool as well. What it does is it sends the Usos off now on a totally different trajectory in terms of 2 single competitors potentially going against each other. And that could build a nice storyline all the way to Mania 40. And then I suppose if you've got two twin brothers going at loggerheads, that's the time maybe where you bring in a Rikishi or a Rock or whatever it is to elevate it a bit more. But what it does now is it opens up that corridor now for Roman. And is that the corridor now that Cody steps into? That's what we were speaking about earlier in the Lesnar match. Have we now opened that pathway and that door for Cody now potentially? Because the Usos are going to go off on their own thing now, and Roman's kind of left in limbo. Give me your thoughts. What did you think of this one?
Yeah, it was a strange one as well because Roman kind of got battered a bit, didn't he? Like he really put Jay over in the match. I thought like Jay was getting a lot of offense. It wasn't just a beatdown. It was a couple of little things that stood out to me there. Paul Heyman shouting from out the crowd. I heard at one point going, "You've known him since you were a child." You've known him. He was like, "You grew up with him. You grew up with him." Just little funny things, but
So cool.
no, I thought. But it looks to me like Roman's ready to step away. Personally, I think you would never know as well. I mean, this is a man that's gone through a lot personally, and basically carrying the company for the last 3 years. So yeah, it would be interesting to see if it's time for him to kind of step away for a little bit, but I don't see it happening. Something I heard yesterday, all the actors guilds are closed now, so The Rock's basically out of work for a while. So that'd be interesting that you brought up his name. So it'd be, I don't know. I mean, The Rock isn't just going to show up as a mentor for someone, though. You know what I mean? He's coming back.
No, it'll be interesting to see. Kenny's touched on this now. This is really cool. Interesting with those images. Roman looked shocked. Paul looked like he knew what was going down. Are we going to get this explanation now? Is there an explanation coming? Who arranged this Jimmy thing? Where did this whole Jimmy thing come from? Was it being planned? Was it being planned by the wise man? All this kind of thing. Was Roman in on it and all this kind of thing? And what way is that going to go? So that should be interesting. Well, when we get the Jimmy explanation, as Sean said earlier, we're due an explanation of Jimmy. Let's see where that goes. But yeah, absolutely, Kenny, absolutely killed her. Bonkers is in. Should Cody being DQ'd for the steel step spot? Many of those steel step spots that we see week in, week out nearly. Family members won't be allowed to interfere during the tribal combat. What a load of bull. They came down and interfere. Anyway, same old routine. Yeah, this is shades of Dan Callis and stuff like that. Remember on the AEW event? Get out of here, ringside, you're banned. 10 minutes later, back down, destroying the match. Nothing said. Yeah, it's like a selective memory, isn't it? And stuff like that. Yeah, sometimes, do you know what it is, Bonkers? Sometimes what we do is we analyze it so deep that we don't allow ourselves then to enjoy it because we're out with the rule book. Come on, give him a yellow card. He deserves a red or whatever it is. You know what I mean? Absolutely. Yeah. You look at last night's pay-per-view, like how many DQs could there be? We could have ended up with 7 DQs the way things are going. Roman Reigns is taking time off until Survivor Series. Yeah, that'd be really cool and stuff like that. And let's see what happens. Henry is in. Hiya, Paul. What's the crack? All good, Henry. I seen you earlier on Del Boy's channel. Good to see you on there. Hope you enjoyed yourself on there with Manny and all. Love Manny, cool guy and stuff like that. Yeah, so that's really. I mean, I thought that spot with Jimmy, I thought was cool, and like Sean said earlier about how the cash in with Damage Control kind of saved the women's match. I thought not that it saved this match, but I think it added that layer and opened up that avenue then for Cody, which I thought was really, really cool. So I mean, overall, I just felt coming out of it, I expected SummerSlam to elevate what they've done the last 4 or 5 months because it's one of the big four as we regard it and stuff like that. I don't think it hit what it was expected to hit. I think the company will realise that as well. They could come back with a strong one coming up. But I think the one thing you take out of this is, and we knew it from COVID as well, the part that the crowd pay in these events is absolutely huge.
Pivotal.
It's pivotal to it. And you've seen it even in this match with Roman, how difficult he even found to get the crowd going. He had to work extra hard last night to get that crowd coming against him and stuff like that. And normally he only has to stare at them. Like even the SummerSlam acknowledge me. You know, didn't get that bump that it normally gets and stuff like that. And maybe, as the boy said, if he takes a couple of months off, goes away, comes back at Survivor Series and stuff like that, let's see what happens. And maybe we get some sort of a mix of a family versus family Survivor Series, traditional old style match or something like that, you know, or something different. Let's see what happens and stuff like that. But yeah, that was really it. That closed out SummerSlam, and you know, it was on so many levels it was pretty cool, and on other levels it was quite disappointing. But we can kind of figure out some of it, where it's going and stuff like that, and it gives us food for thought over the next few months. That's my positivity, if you like, from it.
Okay, well, I'm not going to say it negative, but I will ask you a question then, because I like your positivity. It's you always bring me up. You always bring me up. I'm going to ask you one question though before we go. When you were sitting at home, did you acknowledge him?
I always acknowledge him. I have a vested interest.
I did.
If I have to acknowledge him.
You have to acknowledge him.
For 20 years, I was John Cena's biggest fan. I have to acknowledge him. I have a vested interest.
Hey, look at this cabinet. Look at this cabinet for all the people here.
That cabinet's awesome.
We got John Cena and we got a tribal chief right in the back there. Who knows? Maybe if he takes a bit of time off.
I do like the way you have John Cena and Triple H at the front and everyone else behind them. I'm impressed by that now. I didn't expect that to be the case.
With H?
With either.
Yeah. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of people that listen. I'm a master of kayfabe, lads.
Yeah, absolutely.
Should look at this. Look at the shelf above. Who are those two people on the right?
Ooh.
Who are those two people on the right? The Heartbreak Kid, lads. Would you stop? Oh, I will tell you one thing before we do go. You'll be very interested to see who's at the top of the shelf. This will tell a story.
Go up a bit. You're not up top. Up top shelf or top?
Here we go.
Oh, I do like that.
So we got Bobby the Brain, we got Hogan Warrior, and Piper. Then up there, of course.
There you go.
So see, very nice. H is at the front of Ian's cabinet alongside John Cena.
I did get two very nice bits today or this week for my collection. I don't want to upset you too much.
Oh God.
One you'll be very jealous of.
Okay.
It was a signed Pirlo Juventus jersey. It's gone into my collection. Signed and inserted. Very impressive. And I got a pair of black Ric Flair trunks, signed and inserted. Those were this week's two arrivals, which I'm very happy about.
Well, Niall, you do realise for the new home, there's an empty, look at that, there's an empty wall there needing quite the display. You know what I mean?
I'm not sure whether these two pieces would exit the collection that quick. I'm not
talking about those pieces, but I know when new pieces come in, older pieces tend to be expendable.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's not much wall space, in fairness.
I know you have something in your shop there, quite large and colourful, pink and black.
Okay, nice.
That I've had my eye on for quite a long time.
Yeah, that would look the part on your wall, all right. That's for sure. Yeah.
But no, it's been a pleasure, man, and thanks for having me back. I just want to announce as well, everybody, that Dynamo's Dozen will be back. Literally 2 weeks from now. 2 weeks from now. The first show, I'm going to be honest and give full disclosure, potentially we'll have a great guest from the MMA and pro wrestling world. If the dates don't align, then it will be just myself, possibly Niall come on just to have a little bit of a chat, bring Dynamo's Dozen back into the stratosphere, let's say. But we're going to be going, because Niall and myself have ran these shows, like doing the previews and reviews, and the amount of work Niall puts in, I think it's only right that they're on the upper tier. And Dynamo's Dozen goes back to old school Dynamo's Dozen, and we have interviews and chats with people. So you will see Niall coming on the show and chatting with some of these guests, but I will announce who has agreed to come on the show. I'm happy to say is the beast Dan Severn, who has a great podcast with Don Fry, for Toxic Masculinity Podcast. What a name! Two Toxic Masculinity. If ever there was two lads,
the king of the mustaches.
Oh, good Lord, man. Dan has agreed to come on. We just need to kind of see what way the dates match up, see if they align, but it should be 2 weeks. And Dan's going to be coming over to Ireland and wants to do one in person as well, and wants me to show him some of the wares and the ways of Dublin. So I'll be doing that. So Niall, no doubt,
bit of that Black Forge stout. Bit of that Black Forge stout.
100%. We've been bringing him out to Ooh, I like that. Yeah. There's a hell of a way to go and get a relationship built with the MacG, right?
Absolutely.
God. Someone wants me to say the line. It's not my show.
Before you do, though, pleasure as always. Make sure you're subscribing to the channel. Also, make sure you're subscribed to Dynamo's Dozen for the comeback so you don't miss it, and hit the bell notification. I want to thank everyone. We are over the 1,000 subscribers. We hit our target before the start of the season with a week to spare. So thank you to everyone who pushed that in, and everyone out there who's been sharing the content, liking the content, bringing me onto their channel, all that kind of. The summer has been quite a slog where I thought it would be quite easy, but we've been very busy. So hit the subscribe as always. Give us a line.
You want me to do it?
He wants it. He's looking for it.
For Ian the Dynamo Kelly, for the shopkeeper Niall Hogan, and from the Upper Tier Podcast, we are over and out.
Cheers. Talk to you again, folks.